Welcome back to PJ Chen Design. This is PJ. Many people ask me how to do the hinge and how to do the earring and channel set. This is a video for all the answer. Are you ready? Let's get started. In this tutorial, I would like to talk about specific on these hinges and how we are going to design it properly, and also on the catch over here. If we take a look on the ghost view, there's a way to design to make sure it's catch correctly. So that's starting from the scratch. We're going to start it at the front view, and we're going to draw any shape that you like for the earring. In my case, I would like to draw an oval shape. So I'm going to use the ellipse command and snapping into the 0 as my center. And you kind of need to know what size of the earring that you wanted to work on it. So I'm going to work on some size look like this. Okay, and you can be big or you can be small. It's really up to you. I think this is about 4mm. It's a little bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. All right, so now we have this and we need to look at the cross section. So I'm going to use a rectangle tool and snapping into the top and deciding how wide this thing is going to be. And I'm going to set a channel set stone so I cannot be too small. It depends on what size of a stone you want to set it there. And we also need to have a certain thickness. If you like, you can moving this back to the center by using the move tool and move command. You can move it back. All right, so now first of all we need to kind of take a look on the shape. That's using the sweep one rail, and we get the shape right here, and this is overall shape. Now once we get the shape, we need to get where the channel is going to be. So I'm going to making a copy by scale it down and hit the Alt key and also moving up there. All right, so that space allow me to set the stone over there. And we also want to take a look on this earring. We need to have an opening there. What I mean by opening is we need to have something open for the ear to get in. What is this size supposed to be? Ideally, the average size of a person's ear loop is about 7mm. If you measure, somebody is thicker, somebody is thinner. So I want to make sure this size over here is roughly about 8mm. You can get bigger if you want to, or sometimes you can go up 10 so it's not too tight. All right, so first of all, let's use the align tool to align the center and just type it 0 here. And I wanted this guy to go wider. I do not want him to just a straight cut down. I want him to go wider. If you wanted them to straight cut down, that will work too. One thing you want to concern is you need to measure in between here and here and see what size do you like. You can have it wider or you can have it thinner, right? Depends on, maybe you are designed for teenager or you are designed for more mature customer. So all depends on different customer that you design for. So you can adjust this size if you want to. Okay, so let's say we have something like this, and I'm going to trim it off this section, and instead of just trim it off, and we can cap it, or you can use a Boolean difference. So that's using the trim, and that's cut off this section right there. Don't forget to cap it, CAP. So this will be a solid there. Okay, the second thing is we need to decide where the hinge is going to be. Usually the hinge will be on the opposite side of the opening. So the opening is here on the top and the hinge will be here on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to draw something like a circle, and this circle, it's going to be represent where my hinge is going to be. So it's going to be something like this, and can fit in roughly about this size, and we can adjust it later, but it will be on the opposite side of the opening. Okay, that also means if I have a stone, I don't want my stone to touch the hinge, right? So stone will be roughly ending here. All right, So let's take a look on this. I need to cut the channel for the stone. I do have this set up right there, but it's too deep. I don't need that deep over there for my channel, so I may want to just have something like this. Okay, let's give it a try. We're gonna do the sweep one rail again. We're gonna use this rail and this cross section, and let's hit enter, and then we'll get something like this. This is going to be our cutting tool, but we don't need to have it cutting all the way, because in the back we want it to be solid. Unless you want it to be front and back, you both have a stone, and then you may want to cut the channel on both sides. Okay, before we cutting things, one thing I wanted to mention, you do not want to cutting all the way on this wall. You need to leave something there for the channel to close on the very last stone. So I'm simply just going to draw a line right there, roughly about this size. That's the wall. So we're gonna use this line and this line, and it's going to trim it off the rest of them. Okay, and this side as well, this size right there. All right, so now we have this as our cutting tool. We're gonna use the cap command to cap it. And again, this will be our cutter. So let's go ahead to using our Boolean difference, and we're gonna Boolean different this. We're gonna Boolean different this out of this guy, creating the opening for our stone to sit in, right? This is about the time we're gonna bring the stone in and see if the wall thickness will fit it in there. So I'm going to bring in a stone. So I'm going to bring in the stone. If you like to get this round stone file to practice on, you can download the link at the description below, and then you will sign up the newsletter and get this free stone. Let me go ahead to moving the stone right into the middle. So I'm going to use the align centers and type it 0 and bring it there, and I'm also bring the stone over here. You need to make sure the stone is touching the wall on both sides, and then so that way that's how the stone is setting in there. The first one will touch this wall as well, and then let's take a look on the other view. Now I'm going to move this up, moving down here, tilt it in the angle that is appropriate for this setting. Let's take a look on the ghost view, so it's easier to see where the wall is. All right, so that's my setup for the first one. It might be a little bit too much for that wall there. Okay, so once we have this, we are going to arrange the stone all the way to the bottom. So let's go ahead to use the command under the transform. You have array along curve, and it's going to ask you which object we're going to pick up the stone here. It's going to ask you the path curve, and then we're going to use this edge curve right there, and then preset is 2, so we got 2 of them there. We definitely need a lot more there, so let's say we want to do maybe 20 of them. And as you can see, like, they are jamming together. So I would like to reduce the numbers. So let's say we try 18. It looks good there. Very last one, it's like inside of this. We can just simply just delete it. You also give my last one this a little bit more gap. So you can do adjustment, go back to the Boolean difference to make this cut just slightly smaller. Or maybe that's increasing one stone and see how it goes. It's actually not too good. It's like almost touching. I don't like that. So let's do 18 there. All right, so let's click OK. And we can simply just delete very last one. So that will be our setting there. Okay, so now we have our stone setting. And don't forget, by the way, to cut the stone seat out. So you can make a cutter with the stone arranged together. I have the video for from other video talk about how to make the cutter, so I'm not gonna repeat here to save some time. Let's talk about this hinge right there. So for the hinge, we need to have the circle actually it's going to touch edge to edge. We can use the circle with the diameter right there, and let's go ahead to snapping this point and this point so it will touch perfectly. All right, we also need this to be separated into two parts. So let's go ahead to draw something like this. It's a rectangle tool. I'm going to select the center and snapping somewhere in the center. This is allow us to separate this part into three sections. One thing is really important. The hinge is always going to odd number. So you got 3 or 5 or 7 part. Most of the time it's 3 part. And you also notice that the 2 part on the side is usually smaller than the middle one. You don't even it out 3 part. So I'm going to eyeball it something like that. The middle one is a little bit bigger. The top one is smaller. Alright, so I just turned this into the red color. Let's double make sure. The length from here to here, it's about 4. And the circle that we have from the quadrant to the quadrant is 3.44. So it's alright, just cover just a little bit bigger than that. That'll be fine. If you want to be particular, like super tight, you can get this down in a little bit to get it more close to 3.44 if that works for you. All right, so I want to leave a little bit room there, and then so that will work. Now I also going to explode this one. Let's go ahead to explode it, and we are going to delete on this one, and simply just going to draw a straight line from here to here, and also draw another straight line go from here to here. And let's go ahead to pick up all of this and join them. All right, so this is going to be our color to split the shape over here. Let's go ahead to extrude the shape. This one, let me just move it down so it's easier for you to see. Okay, so now you see this is a shape over there. I simply just going to extrude it, and then you're going to see the surface right there. I'm going to turn this into the red color so it's easier for you to see. All right, so you see that red there? It's cutting our piece into different section. And again, if you feel like it's too far away from the circle, you can just scale 1D down to make sure it's touching the circle, something like that. Just need a little bit bigger, just tiny bit bigger. And I shouldn't do on the perspective. Well, it's actually not too bad. Okay, so now we have something like this, and I'm going to use this one to be split by this surface, so we get something like this. And also I'm going to change that into the green color, so like different colors, easier for you to see. Now we got 2 parts, 1 and 2. This one, it's need to fill it up the surface. If I let me hiding this one there, because I'm just split, you can see like this is where that opening is, right? So I'm going to use this one to trim off this guy right here. So then you see that little section right there. If I hiding this one, you're gonna see that little section. That little section need to be copy paste, making 2 of them. One of them, it's going to join with this green one. Okay, so we have another one. We are going to turn on the other side and join with that surface. So we join this one. Now they both double check it's a closed solid polished surface. You see this and this, they both solid. Okay, so now we need to start working on the hinge. For the hinge, ideally I like to get the one in the middle just tiny smaller, but also your jeweler may polish it, so it might get smaller anyway. So I'm going to leave it like that. I always have a jeweler to work with me for a long time, so I know their working habit in order to adjust, you know, my model for it. So I'm going to making a cylinder first, snapping into the center. This is where the pin or the rivet is going to be, so I'm gonna put it somewhere about this size. Okay, as long as they are longer than my earring, that will be fine. For the rendering purpose, not just I'm going to cut a hole, I might need to have another piece just smaller there And I'm going to show you why it need to be smaller. First of all, that's bowling difference. This guy and this guy out of the bigger cylinder. All right, so now you see I have this one there. For rendering purpose, to make it look nicer, you don't have to do it on the printing one, but to make it look nicer, I need to have a very tiny, maybe 0.1 radius for my fillet. So I'm going to fillet something over here, and you can see that tiny fillet there. The other side, I'm just gonna leave it like that for comparison. This side too, I'm going to do a fillet right here, so it's small as well, and I'm gonna scale it down for something like that. I should have aligned them first, so let me align them to the 0 so I can scale it down properly. All right, so what I mean by doing this is because if you look at the render view, and you're going to see something look like something really stick in there, right? It's different over here that you feel like you don't catch the light there. So having a tiny fillet is always look good for the rendering, but not necessary for the printing, because after polish, you're gonna have that small radius anyway. But I just want to show you that part. Okay, now the hinge right here, there's no way that you can moving this around because the wall is touching the wall in between those, right? So we're gonna use this circle, and we're going to trim something open. Let me hiding this size there so it will make sense to you. I also actually want to make the circle just a bit, just tiny bit bigger. That okay. And first of all, this one, it's going to open like a clamp. So where on the bottom it's going to block it. So we're gonna use this one to coming over, and I'm going to make a surface there. With this surface, I'm going to trim off this guy on the bottom. Okay, and the same way I'm going to have this one to trim off this guy there. So now we have something on the bottom, it's rounded, and I'm going to join them. Always double make sure they are close solid poly surface on each of the step, right? So that way we can open it. Now if I turn on the other side like this one, we're gonna do the same thing. So this guy right here, I'm going to hide it, and again we are going to use exactly the same curve. You do not want to change the curve position or move around or size it once you decided, you know, how big that circle curve is going to be. So this one, it's going to trim it off, the bottom here and the bottom here. The same thing, this guy, it's going to trim off the surface over there. All right, so let's take a look. And we also have the extra surface there, and let's go ahead to join them. All right, so now if I turn on the green one, we are going to have something look like this. Both of the bottom, it's rounded. From the front, if you look at the render view, and you're going to get something look like this. All right, let's do a test if see our logic makes sense. We are going to pick up this one, and I'm going to use the rotate tool, and we're gonna snapping into the center right there. And let's see if we are going to blocking anything. Let's look at the perspective view, and we are going to actually, it's gonna turning, let me make this bigger. It's going to turning like this. But when they come back to here, you see the green one hit the wall right there, it will stop there. So this should work all the way until this green wall hit the other side, if that makes sense to you. All right, so that will be correct. So that will be our hinge over there. Now, let's also talk about this guy right here. First of all, this piece is going to be super heavy. In the commercial sense, it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to have this guy, and using that one to simply just mirror to the other side, snapping into the middle. Let's come back to the other view. I'm going to snapping into the middle of the midpoint here. All right, so this guy over here, let me move it down a little bit. I'm going to use the sweep one rail, and this is the rail, this is a cross section. It's going to cut it open like this. All right, and again, we cannot cut into the hinge. Let me turn this into the red color. So we cannot cut into the hinge. We don't want to cut it like open like this one. We do want to keep that wall there. So again, I'm going to use this curve. Simply align where inside is, just moving this one down a little bit. Just keep a wall thickness over there. This one too, I'm going to have this one come over there. All right, so this is where the part is going to be cut. This time, that's using the split with this curve and this curve. So now we got two sections there. Let's go ahead to cap it. And on the white part, we're gonna use the Boolean difference. This one out of this one. All right. So now you can see I cut the channel out to save some metal space. All right. And then this guy, I'm just going to mirror to the other side. Let's type it 0 here and mirror to here, right? Using this guy, we're going to trim it off this. So it's the same distance on both sides for you to do the hollow part. This one no longer needed. Let's go ahead to use the cap command to cap this one. Okay, so now we have this guy here. I'm going to use a Boolean difference, the green one out of the red one. And then you might be curious, like, PJ, why you cutting this one open? Because this is where the mechanism we want something to catch. We may even need to cut it open even more. So let me show you what I mean there. Okay, first of all, let's go ahead to make an earring pulse here. So I'm going to offset this guy maybe by 1 millimeter or 1.2 millimeter, or maybe 1.4 millimeter. So that's where our earring is going to be, and that's where I'm going to okay, so roughly that, eyeball it right in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to using this one to actually, and just using a split, and I'm going to split with the point somewhere inside of this shape and somewhere about here. Okay, so we actually just need that little section right there. Okay, let me turn this one into the red color. So that's where our earring post is. I will pipe it, and ideally our earring post in the diameter is 0.81 millimeter, which is the 20 gauge of the wire. And then so we'll get something like this. All right, now we have this. You can make it thicker if you want to. Some people make it a little bit square if that works for you, but some people like to solder one just for the tension, but here just for the modeling purpose. You can have a different way to work on this one. All right, so this might be a little bit too thin, but I'm going to work with this one. All right, now something really careful right here. If this post, it's going to solder, this post is going to solder on this side, so that we don't have any problem. But this guy right here, we need to make sure it has a catch there. Okay, so the catch is going to cut the notch on my post, and this apparently is not high enough. So I'm going to come back with my piece and simply just making a box. This box is going to be 3 point. So that's first point, second point, and then we're going to move it down and move it inside, something like this. Okay, after we make this box, I'm also going to make a copy, Control C and Control V, and I want to rotate it something like this. Okay, it might look a little bit weird, but that will make sense just in a few seconds. So I'm gonna come in over here and to make this opening something like this. If that look weird over there, I actually want to create a little bit more space. So let's go ahead to use a 1D scale and just make this just a little bit longer so it doesn't look too weird. Okay, one more things to do. This post is really long, go all the way there. There's no room for my post. So this guy need to be a little bit longer. So we are going to use a 1D scale to make this guy longer. As long as we can cover that post there. So let's go ahead to using the bowling difference. This guy out of this guy. So that gives us some room for our earring to set it there. The second things I wanted to do is bowling difference again, this guy out of this guy. Alright, so if we take a look inside, you're going to see this has some room, like it's hollow all the way, but it has some extra room for our earring post. And then I have this a little bit notch there that I need to make. So this guy, it's going to be bowling split by the green one. And then you see that little tiny piece I pick up there, we're going to delete it. If I hiding this, you're going to see that little notch right there on my perspective, and this is where it's going to catch the one on the green on that side. All right, so the tension will hold it together. Now this might be a little bit too small of a notch, but you can adjust it. I just want to show you how to do it. Okay, so then this will be our earring and be able to cast into two parts on the green one and also on this one. If you like everything, just go ahead to boolean union the post to one side over there, and that will be a hinge earrings. One of the very important things compared to other industry for jewelry CAD design is to understand the stone setting and apply to your CAD design. If the stone setting is not correct, that won't be a good file for 3D printing and casting. Check out my stone setting course on my website. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next.